Angus Young, how you doing?
Good, Becko.
The Offspring.
How's it going, Becko?
Dave Grohl, how you going, mate?
Good, man.
Pete, it's been a long time coming.
Oh, Becko, hasn't it indeed?
We go inside the dressing room, speak to the biggest names in music,
Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones.
and crack open their esky.
That's exactly how I imagine you, by the way, sitting opposite me with a vodka and orange.
You're a discerning chap. This is The Rider.
Hey, this is Becko. Welcome back to The Rider. Before we go into the Christmas break, this is episode 5. We've had some brilliant guests so far, and of course we're heading into Christmas. I'm hoping that you bought some music for Christmas and not just buying a Spotify account for someone you love. But there are so many concerts coming up next year, and obviously everyone's encouraging you to go and buy the ticket. Hang on to it if a postponement happens. I mean, look at Empire Touring. They've got the Big Red Bash coming up, the Monday Bash. You've got John Lennon's Imagine, the tribute to the Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers. Frontier Touring, you've got Midnight Oil on their final tour. You've got the Hoodoo Gurus celebrating their 40th. Jim Jeffries, you've got the Killers. Chug's got Courtney Barnett and Billie Eilish. And, of course, Great Southern Nights, which has been a great initiative put on by the New South Wales government. It got us through COVID. It subsidised a lot of small gigs, which were happening last year in the middle of COVID. And certainly it's going to come back again in a big way next year as well. But let's get straight into our next guest on The Rider.
We've decided to be one of the first bands, if not the first band on the planet to do our album launch live to the internet.
The Madonna Sex Book, we're actually putting out our own very soon. It's going to be called The Screaming Jets A-Sex.
Let's hear it for the Screaming Jets.
The Jets are back. In fact, they're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the debut album, All For One, and rather than putting out a reissue during COVID, they decided to go and re-record it remotely, all from different parts of the country. Dave Gleeson, obviously, at his house in Adelaide, recording the vocals, and it all just came together, and it has charted, which is fantastic. Number 4 in the chart. He is a veteran. He is an all-time great bloke as well. Let's get him on. I can see his Zoom screen loading up right now as we speak. Dave Gleeson from the Screaming Jets and the Angels. How are you, mate?
Becko, I am good, mate. I'm glad to be talking about forthcoming events and stuff on the horizon, mate. It's unreal.
Now, before we go any further, it is called The Rider. So what is in The Rider? What do you got?
I'm drinking O'Brien's XPA.
Nice.
Which is a beer that Shane Lee, big brother of Brett, put me on to. It's gluten-free. I'm not I'm a celiac or nothing, but
Yeah.
I tried it. It's all right. It's unreal. It tastes great.
In fact, I had the UMI beer on the weekend at Tumut.
Right.
And it was pretty good too. It was an XPA, and it's not too bad.
I'm amazed Tim let any out for anyone to have a drink.
Yeah, I've heard stories, but I've heard the first batch is all sold out. So I've been lucky enough to hang out and watch you work in a band, and I've seen the aftermath of a gig where you've come off stage and you've been sweating, and I took a photo, I think, of you sort of just in the come down stage after a show, and you got the towel around your neck, and you got your head in your hands, and you obviously you give everything in a show, and you still had time to grab a VB from memory, so you know.
Look, I think that's a standard we set ourselves pretty early.
Yeah,
was just to give it all on stage. If you walk off stage and you're not wringing wet, especially, I think you talked about the bridge. I mean, Jesus, I'm lucky I made it through a few of those gigs. It's just like unreal. But when the sweat's dripping off, when you can feel it dripping off your arms, mate, you're like, yeah, I'm doing it now.
You were in full swing in a tour when COVID happened, and I remember everyone started getting phone calls that the tour was going to be off, and eventually you found out. And it just feels like since then it's been one setback after another, and you took advantage of that though by doing the streaming, not screaming gigs, which were great every Sunday.
Yeah, no, that was unreal. Great time. We've done them sporadically over this last 12 months, but what happened was we did 31 Sundays in a row, starting off in my yard under the carport and stuff, under a tree and that, and then it grew. And then, like, restrictions got eased, so we moved it to the Gov. So we just kept going. And then I only pulled the pin with the boys because I said, well, I'm going back on the road with the Angels in, I think it was like mid-January. And so we did our last show in October, and lo and behold, come November or whatever, they've just gone, yeah, look, that's touring's not happening. So,
Yeah.
and by that stage, people had already booked in to play the Gov. So there was, we'd broken the cycle, which was a bit sad in hindsight.
Yeah, it seems like this summer is going to be a bit of a tough one. It's almost a write-off. Like everyone's kind of given up on this summer. There's too much uncertainty. I mean, the odd gig will happen, but I think you've done the right thing. You've announced a stack of gigs for your Come On Summer Tour, which is going to be mid-January, I think Jan 21.
Yeah, well, we kept postponing stuff and postponing it, putting back a month. I mean, the record release was put back from July, I think, it ended up getting pushed back to October. And that was as far back as we pushed it. Because what you want to do when you bring out a record, obviously, is get out on the road and tour it, So
yeah.
In the end, we just put it out, and luckily enough, it went into the charts, top 5.
Well, congratulations, mate, because this is your debut album, and you've gone and re-recorded it. And it's the 30th anniversary. So, 1990, you guys were kids in Newcastle. And 30 years later, you're seasoned rock and rollers. And did you feel doing the album again that you're better musicians now?
Well, hopefully. I mean, obviously, you kind of want to get better at what you do as you go along.
Yeah.
And having said that, I mean, Jimmy's been with the band all up at least 20 years now, and Scotty's been with us for 10 years. And you come to know the songs. Like we all know the songs now better, or pardon the pun, than we did when we first recorded them. Because by that stage, some of them were only 2 months old, some were 6 months old, and so it was kind of like still getting to know the songs. And now you know them intimately. You kind of, I think I enjoyed at least as much recording the album this time, except we didn't have any in studio shenanigans because we're all. Apart from each other, but just as good a time in the recording process. It was a great thing to do.
I want to go back to the beginning, actually, because I remember you were Real Art Records, which was an iconic record company back in the day, and Chris Murphy was involved, and they really wanted to get you. So how do they get you? They took you somewhere. Tell me about that.
Took us to a strip bar. No, they swooped. Basically, Ruart swooped in at the 11th hour. We'd been courted by Mushroom and Michael Gudinski and that for quite some time, leading up to just before we got signed. And then Chris Murphy heard about us and came over and saw us at the Bel Air in Newcastle. And just gave us this massive offer. Little did I know that those two guys had been having a pissing contest for God knows how many years before we came on the scene. And I think there was a little spite in that as well. And then we had, we fell out with Chris Murphy pretty well within 3 or 4 months of signing, but the relationship got back on track, and we were able to make some good records with Ruart. So but it was a funny thing because when we first started going to Sydney, I'd been in a band for 5 years already up in Newcastle, Aspect, and Paulie had been in a band, and we'd played hundreds of gigs all over Newcastle, Central Coast, up into Queensland and stuff, but we never really existed in the music industry. The bands I've been in, you're a gang, and you're like, and we're the reason for the season. Everything revolves around us. So I remember someone saying, Michael Gudinski's here when we first did one of our shows in Sydney at the Cardoma Cafe. And I was like, who's Michael Gudinski? And tell him I'm here. I was like that, So we didn't know any of the kind of the machinations of the actual real music industry and recording industry. So as I said, we just went in blind, and we were a gang from Newcastle, and we were spouting around words like mega, oh that's mega, and going, oh rock on, oh we're going the full schmear, and everyone's going, where does these blokes' language come from? So yeah, being a gang, I think is what I love most about being in the band.
And you were, I remember you doing the hard yards like every band does back then. You were ringing up radio stations, like you rang Triple M, and you'd befriend the night guy, and you give him a ring on the Newcastle freeway and mention the gigs you'd done that night. it must have been a long slog before people started to notice.
Oh yeah, we were playing lots. I mean, when we formed the Jets, we were like, what we're going to do is, as I say, we'd all been in bands, cover bands mostly, and the Jets was like, we just said, right, well, we're going to have a real band now.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we got that together and started playing, we were supporting everyone. We supported the Bombers, John Brewster's band with Alan Lancaster. God bless him.
Great,
We supported the Radiators and the Choir Boys and the Divinals and the Party Girls and anyone that we could support.
Yeah.
And that just kind of brought us to the attention of like booking agents, because they're like, all this band's working hard. So that's how you do it. That's how we did it back then, eh? It was like there was no social, you just had to get out amongst the people and do as many gigs as you could.
Yeah. I mean, I saw videos of you doing a Sydney gig, and I think we talked about it before, where you're jumping off the Piermont Bridge or whatever it was into the water mid show, and everyone was just going, "Who are these guys?" You know.
And that was on a showcase, a Ruart showcase, and I think Rat Cat had to go on after us. Oh, the poor buggers. But yeah, the people were still jumping in the water even though Rat Cat were on. We'd inspired them people to do something crazy. It was nuts. I love it.
And you had your own little on stage, things you do. I remember the part of the show was you force yourself to have a vomit in the middle of a certain song. Many years of doing that, it actually damaged your throat, didn't it? The esophagus.
Yeah. I've loosened the sphincter that stops reflux coming up.
Yeah.
But I used to be able to vomit on cue. And looking back, I mean, no wonder we started to get a male skewed audience. But
then what was the go? You couldn't sleep lying down from then onwards, pretty much. You had to sleep upright.
Oh no, there was a time there. No, I had to like bolster myself up on my pillows. The same as Paulie. I mean, we drank Jack Daniels like water when we were first started off, and not to say that we don't now, but I mean, it wasn't impossible to know that 2 bottles of Jack would go on a Monday when we weren't even playing.
Going back to the rider, like what was in the backstage rider back in those days?
The only rider that we'd ever known really before that was when we started playing. We played, I think, 26 weeks in a row in my first band in the front row of the Cambridge Hotel in Newcastle.
Yeah.
On a Saturday night, we'd go on about 6:30 to 8:30, and then the main band would come out in the back room. And the publican, what was his name? Macca. Macca used to give us a 6-pack of West End draft. Right?
What?
Oh, it was terrible. Either that or some emu. I mean, I don't know how long it had been in the cool room, but that was our first introduction to rider. But of course, when we signed a record contract, you become a big band. So we were like, I think we'd have like 2 cases of VB, a bottle of Jack, a bottle of vodka. I don't think we got any wine. We weren't like that. But just I said, I need 2 packets of Winnie Blue as well.
Yes.
And some St. George socks, some brand new St. George socks. That was on the rider.
Oh, that's great.
So I've still got a drawer full of Saint socks. Some official, only a few official. But I'd give a packet of Winnie Blues to our lighting guy Jimmy, and good days. But obviously, you become a big band, and you act accordingly.
And it was such an incestuous, industry back then. Everyone dated each other. I mean, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'll bring up, you dated Susie from the Baby Animals at one point. I mean, you were the it couple of the industry.
Yeah, well, for a little while we went out. Yeah. It was. I think it was a much bigger deal to me than it was to Susie. Not that we don't have a great love and respect for each other, but now, obviously, after all these years, but I couldn't even. For years after I was devoed, mate. So I just hope to never run into it. But I think. She might have gone out with Diesel when they were in Western Australia together, and I'm not trying to paint her as some get-around girl. But yeah, we were all hanging out together a lot. We were You know, we're all playing around Sydney. We'd all moved to Sydney to kind of have a crack at it. And there was us and the Baby Animals, and there's a few other bands, the Hurricanes. I think us, the Baby Animals, and the Hurricanes played Max's at Petersham Inn on a Sunday for about 3 months in a row. So yeah, I mean, we had a very strong relationship with those guys.
Yeah, we've been partying and crashing on couches for probably months on end. That's what bands used to do. They'd come to town and they would text or they bring someone and say, you know, do you mind if we crash on your couch for a couple of nights? And it might probably end up being 2 months.
Oh, mate, when we first moved down from Newey, we a couple of crew moved down with us, 2 crew guys. And then we just had a constant stream of friends coming down, staying in this small apartment that we had. We had 2 of them, actually, one across the road from each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just had a constant stream of people coming down. We'd just go, let's go to Springies, and off we'd go, and everyone would get nuts there. And, yeah.
Hopefully post-COVID, this brings on a bit of a renaissance for a pub scene maybe next year. You know, you sort of feel like it's going to be a good year before a lot of the internationals are going to be able to make it back. And, you know.
Well, I'm hoping what will happen is, because obviously over the last maybe 10 or 15 years, you've lost the rock week used to start on a Wednesday night. That was when you could go to a local, there'd be a local band playing, regionals, you know. Thursday night, there might be a tour and that come through, playing at Newcastle Workers or playing at the Metro and wherever, you know. And then, you know, there was always, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes a Sunday session. So, look, I'm hoping, because there's so many bands out there who are trying to fit gigs into a smaller number of venues, and no one wants to put anything off till 2023. That's for damn sure. I'm hoping maybe a Thursday night will come back, and then you'll get more Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where bands can be out doing it, you know, for those 3 days, and you know, even Sunday sessions and stuff like that. But look, that's what I'm crossing my fingers for. As I say, there'll be so much traffic out there, and so many bands that it's not because people so much want to play as much as we all do, but everyone has to play. There'll only be 5 musicians in the country, like well-known rock or contemporary musicians. There'll only be 5 or 10 in the country who can sit around going, yeah, I'll just wait it out. I'm sitting here on a pile of money, you know. Everyone else really is from and not saying they're on the bones of their ass, but like Russell Morris and Richard Clapton and James Rain and like it's our job, you know. So we've got to work and hopefully people will see that, like venues and that will go, well, maybe we'll extend the playing nights from Thursday to Sunday. So fingers crossed. Because I found a thing the other day, a 1991 Shine On tour itinerary, 7 weeks. We did 6 shows a week, and I'll guarantee you we did not blow one of them out. We might not have done our best shows all the time, but 42 shows in 7 weeks. And I mean, obviously I couldn't do that anymore. But
no.
It just goes to show how much opportunity we had to get out there and ply our trade and to get our chops and get better and better at what we're doing.
Well, you're certainly touring a bit differently now, aren't you? Like you're doing the weekend shows, and you're now able to fly home and be at home for the rest of the week, and then fly back again. And it's a bit more balanced because you've got a family now. You know. Yeah.
It's much more conducive to a long life to be able to get off the road, because like in that 7-week tour, I reckon I'll probably pass through and stayed at my own house maybe a dozen times in 7 weeks. It wasn't like you just jumped on a plane and it was $150. It was like, if you wanted to go home, you had an 8-hour drive. So you know, often we'd go to North Queensland and we'd make our way down, and you just stay where, you know, between gigs, you just between the weeks, you move to another town, stay there, start again. And it was great fun. Great way to you know, the more you play, the better you get.
Yeah. Well, the Come On tour, so starting in Jan 21 and then through to the Bridge Hotel Rosette, which is kind of traditionally where you usually end your tours, actually. Feb 11 and 12. What is the best pub you've ever played at? Really putting you on the spot. There's got to be a few. Yeah.
Well, the Cambridge will always hold a very special place in my heart because when I first started going to pubs, I used to go there, and there was a band called the Funbusters played there every Thursday night, and the place would be fucking chock-a-block every Thursday night, and they would get up there and do the same set every Thursday night, same gags, same. So it was, but because Newcastle draws from such a big area, it wasn't always the same people. It was obviously, but the Funbusters used to fill the joint. And then when we started off and ended up filling that joint, I was just like, we're as big as the Funbusters. So that's always going to hold a special place. The bridge, as you say, Richard, there is. I feel like we're part of the family, part of the furniture at the bridge. It's a great surviving icon of rock. The Governor Hindmarsh in South Australia, in Adelaide, that's an absolute favourite. I'll give you one from every state. Tasmania, the country club at Launceston is just mad. Love it there.
Wow.
And West Australia, probably the Charles Hotel. The Charles is an absolute pit. It's a rock pit. Still got the same carpet they had when Bon Scott was thrown up on the floor.
There's something about the Bridge Hotel, but actually upstairs, they let you hang out in the living quarters of the owner. So it's this beautiful Art Deco furniture, and they've got the original TV and a radiogram, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is, and that and looking out that rounded window across the Iron Cove Bridge there, it's a pretty specky joint.
Yeah. So next year you got your tour at the start of the year. Can I get you back at the Angels at some point? Is that the plan again?
Yeah. So I mean, the reason that the actual All for One tour is pushed back to July, with a few preview dates, as you say, in January and Feb. Is because we're in the middle of the Red Hot Summer Tour, 2009.
It would have been last year.
Yeah, 2000. It was the Ides of March, the 18th of March.
That's it.
Supposed to play Kiama, and it got called off because there was really high winds. Right, Red Hot Summer, Hunters and Collectors, James Rain, Living End, Angels. It's mad, Baby Animals, just a killer bill. So they called it off because of the wind, and then that night the COVID thing hit, and so everything got called off. So everything that we had planned obviously has to come in turn. So the Angels are taking up the first half of next year, mostly with unfinished business. I think we've still got another 12 or 14 shows to go on the Red Hot Summer Tour. So that's a 2-month period. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to fit it all in. The boys aren't that happy with me in the Jets, and I understand because everyone just wants to play, So, but we're going to be recording. I'm going to be staying over in Victoria and stuff when we do some Angels gigs, and we're going to be recording an album in that period. So there'll still be Jets action going on. Great.
Tell you what, the busiest man in music. I mean, look at you. It's
I mean, as I said last year, I reckon probably a week before I'm saying to someone, "Oh, mate, yeah, busy. Haven't got a weekend off till freaking Christmas," and then had nothing. So my wife, who also manages the Jets and me, I'd be dead without her. She rings me a couple of weeks ago. She said, "I'm just booking in everything, and it looks like we can get you 2 weekends off next year." I said, "I don't want any weekends off next year." I said, in the last 18 months, I've had all my weekends off for the rest of me fucking career. That'll do me. I mean, and I think everyone's the same. Everyone, it's one thing to take time off, as every muso in the country that has gone, I'm taking time out for a year or 2 years, however long, but knowing that it's still there. But then when they say, it's not there, and you can't do it even if you want to do it, it's a big blow.
Well, it's going to make every moment extra special from now on. And I got a sneak peek of it. There's one gig I got to go to back in June before we locked down again. And it was Wolf Mother at the Enmore. And it was the first gig where it was standing and it was indoors and it was unrestricted. And it was just so amazing being in a crowd and being sweated on and all that stuff. And we thought we were in the clear. And then I think it was like 2 weeks later.
And that's the unquantifiable thing about it, that interaction with people. People have met partners and become lifelong friends at gigs from every band, you know, and that interaction, it's just invaluable to people who love music. You know, it's one thing to listen to on records or have a few friends around listening to some music, but that live interaction, as you say, everyone squashed in a sea of humanity. It's something that you can't replicate, and that's the hard thing, I reckon, for all the musos out there. It's like if there was a little pill you could go and go, oh, but there's nothing like getting cheered at, and I don't get cheered at home by my 13 and 17-year-old kids. There's no cheer.
Well, mate, you are very lucky though. You got a great family. As I said, your wife is your boss and your wife, and she's amazing. And
I watch a lot of American football. There's a guy called LaDainian Thompson, and he never won a Super Bowl. He never won a championship. And his mate said, look at your wife and your kids and that. He said, you win a championship every day. And I go,
exactly.
Who needs an aria? Dennis Handlin can stick them all up. Well.
But Gleeso, on that note, it is great to catch up, and it's been a long time, and we're almost there. You know, we've got summer coming up, and it's going to be a late one for gigs, I think. But look, and congratulations on the album as well. I mean, we were JB Hi-Fi, number 4 for the 30th anniversary.
Oh, the national charts, unreal. Number 1 on the independent charts. That's just nuts. Couldn't be more happy. It's to have an album, re-record an album that was in the charts in the top 5 30 years ago and do the same thing. It's unheard of. It's unreal.
What a genius move. Well, Dave Gleeson, thanks for coming on The Rider.
I owe it to the O'Brien's dear. When I was doing the stuff with them, when we did face-to-face and no exit, I just thought it's such a great way to mark history. A great thing of saying, well, this is the band now, let's get it. And we won't be doing it with every album, but anyway, thanks, Becko. I love to catch up with you, mate.
And thanks so much for your time, and I'll see you in the flesh as soon as we can make it happen.
Well, come on, bring on 2022.
What an absolute legend. So good to catch up with Gleeso. He's always very generous for this time. And, of course, make sure you catch the Screaming Jets. They're doing a Come On Summer Tour, Jan 21 in Adelaide, all the way through to the Bridge Hotel Roselle, Feb 11 and 12. And, of course, go and get the album, the 30th anniversary re-recorded edition of All For One, their debut album. It is out now. Well, there we go. That is the 5th episode of The Rider. Thank you for following. Thank you for liking it. Thank you for subscribing to it. And, of course, you can get it on all platforms. And we've got a big one to start off next year. We're going to have a break for a couple of weeks over Christmas, New Year's. An Aussie legend. He has literally got a million stories. We'll talk to him after New Year's. That is The Rider. Get us on Instagram, The Rider Pod. We'll catch you back soon. This is The Rider with Becko.